Hello guys, today we're going to be reading Medicine, Past and Present. And we can begin now. Early medicine. Imagine you are living in Italy a few hundred years ago. One day your friend next door gets sick. His mother and brother become ill. The following day and that night, all three of them die. Neighbors all around you are sick and are dying. You don't know who might be next, if could even be your parents. In those days, this nightmare is what life was like in the middle of the 14th century. An epic called the Black Plague swept across Europe, Asia, and Africa. It killed about 75 million people, wiping out more than a third of Europe's population. While the disease spread some towns and villages, it killed nearly everyone in others. There was little warning, and those who caught the disease were dead within a few days. Getting sick was already scary, not just during epidemics like the Black Plague. Death was never far away. People could fall ill and die at any moment, and no one would know why. Most people did not live to be very old. The average life expectancy is only a third or 30 or 40 years old. About half what it is now in the United States. For most of human history, people did not know what caused diseases. They could not see germs, so they didn't realize germs existed. Even after germs were discovered, it took a long time to connect them with the virus disease. It took even longer for people to understand how to keep germs from making people sick. Before people knew germs, they had other ideas what could cause diseases. Mostly these ideas involved some kinds of magical powers. It is easy to understand why people could believe such ideas. Diseases were terrifying and mysterious. Often there seemed to be no patterns to them. Why did some people die young and others get old? Why did some ones get infected and others heal? Why did epidemics kill some people and not others? Without knowing about germs, it is easy to believe anything you might make a difference in the possibility life a save. So it was an idea when a few people suggested. In Greece about 2,500 years ago that the human body is predictable and that disease has natural causes and reasonable explains. Hippocrates is the best known of these people. Because this basic idea is so important, it is called the father of medicine, Hippocrates. Hippocrates was sure that he could find reasons for illness by closing studies of human body and observing diseases. He also thought that people would understand the way the body worked. We now know that Hippocrates was on the right track. But when he lived and for a long time afterwards, his idea was no more than a guess. and often it didn't seem like a very good guess. Hippocrates had lived nearly 2,000 years before the Black Plague, and his beliefs still had very little support. So many people went believing their old ideas and attempting to use magic to correct diseases. Some of the things they did had good results, even though the idea about why these things worked were strong. For example, when ancient Chinese used herbs and the accident, Egyptians used moldy bread on wounds. They found that infections healed. Some Native American people knew that chewing willow tree bark would help reduce pain, and many people knew that the doctor could help just by smoothing patients and taking good care of them. Chinese practice acupuncture and the use of herbal treatment to remedy illness. Hippocrates learned, though, observing the examination of patients. Living in Greece, he is a great medical teacher and creates the Hippocratic Oath, a code of medical ethics still in use today. Veterans first used eyeglasses to correct poor vision. But Hippocrates' basic idea was not being much more than a guess. For a long time, around 1,600, things began to change. An Englishman named William Harvey discovered the blood in human and animal bodies does not just sit there. It moves or circulates all through the body every few minutes. And the heart is pumping that makes it move. This was an important breakthrough because it made sense of many things that had long been known, but the heart and blood. But we never been pulled together. So it was an important step toward making Hippocrates' guess look more reasonable. A lot of streaming mysteries and unreal facts turned out to be simple natural explanation. The plague spreads across Europe for 3/4 of European and Asian populations died in a 20-year period. The English doctor William Harvey discovered blood is circulated through the body by heart. He realizes the heart works like a pump in contraction. Discovering germs. The discovery of germs and how they cause diseases took much longer. The first step was to realize that there were animals so tiny that it couldn't be seen by the naked eye. These steps were taken by the Dutchman named Anton van Leeuwenhoek in 1674. After he had heard of the microscopes that magnified small objects, he made himself a very powerful one. He used it to look at water from a nearby pond and was amazed to find tiny animals swimming around in it. No human being had ever seen them before. He found many different kinds of microbes, and these tiny animals are called today and became famous for their discoveries. Ever since, 1,300 people had sometimes thought such tiny living things might cause diseases. But Leeuwenhoek did not know of this idea. He did not suspect that the microbes he saw could cause the disease. the disease that killed people, but now people knew that microbes really existed. Anton van Leeuwenhoek studied life under microscope and is able in action to 160 times magnificent. English surgeons Claudius Amnion successfully completes the first surgery to remove the abdomen. Another big step was taken around 1800 by the English doctor named Edward Jenner. He believed that Hippocrates' guess. He's sure that disease is a natural cause. One particularly terrifying disease at the time was smallpox, which killed most people who got in the few recognized. The disease again, Jenner guessed that the body developed some meaning to fight the disease, so that it would be invaded. To think the way of getting the body to develop these antibodies, as they are now called, to attack the disease without having smallpox first. He knew that among the cattle there was a disease called cowpox, which was similar to human disease of smallpox. Humans could also get cowpox, but it rarely killed them, and no left permanent scars. Jenner heard it said among the country some parts of England that you got cowpox and never get smallpox. James Lind discovered that lemons and limes can cure surgery, and vitamin C definitely sails who frequently suffers from the disease. No longer ocean voyages welcome in the findings and drink lime juice. Benjamin Franklin's invention is a biographical lens. Jennifer decided to find out the truth. He guessed that once the body develops antibodies to cowpox, the same antibodies would be able to fight on the chicken side, smallpox. He infected some people with cowpox and waited until they recovered. Then he tried to experiment. Wouldn't be tried today. This test was not dangerous. Such experiments would be tried today. The people did not get ill. They had developed antibodies that would catch smallpox and elimination disease. So Jenner had discovered this way of preventing smallpox. For the first time ever, doctors could do something to prevent this disease. And they had evidence that whatever caused smallpox could be defeated by something the body's developed. But they still didn't know what actually caused the disease. For centuries, people had been guessing the microbes for germs caused smallpox. No one made the actual connection between germs and disease until Louis Pasteur, a French chemist, conducted some experiments in the mid-1800s. Edward Jenner experimented with the cowpox vaccinations against smallpox. The French scientist Louis Pasteur and described the prince of airborne bacteria. Florence Nightingale Establishment, the Nightingale School of Nurses, the first of its kind in the world. An English nurse, Nightingale was the founder of modern nursing. Louis Pasteur vaccines animals against anthrax. Making the connection. While Patterson was doing his experiment, other scientists were discovering many different microbes. One kind of very small microbe, shaped like a rod or stick, was called bacteria, after the Greek word for stick. Patterson carefully followed these discoveries and learned a lot about different types of bacteria. But before he could make the connection between the bacteria or germs and disease, he had a more difficult job. Patterson had to dispel or provoke wrong and old beliefs that was standing in the way of research. Many people believed that living things could grow from non-living things. They thought that rats grew from pieces of cheese, rotting meat turned into worms, and animals grew out of water. This idea, called spontaneous germination, seems silly to use now, but it is easily to see why people believed it. When Antoine van Leeuwenhoek discovered microbes under his microscope, no one had an explanation for how they got into the water. So it seems like that the water must have turned into these animals. Pasteur thought this idea was wrong. He conducted several experiments to make sure. In previous series of experiments, Pasteur had learned that certain bacteria made wine spoil. When he heated, the bacteria became known as... In previous series of experiments, Pasteur had learned that certain bacteria made wine spoil. When he heated the wine, the bacteria were killed. The process of heating to kill bacteria became known as pressuring. In another set of experiments, Pasteur heated a flake of water to kill the bacteria. He took samples of the water and showed under the microscope and found bacteria on it. This proved that the bacteria was carried into water by dust particles. The bacteria had not grown out of the water. Once people believed that all living things came only from other living things, it was easier for Pasteur to prove the disease were caused by living things. While conducting his experiments on wine, Pasteur had wondered if bacteria might also cause diseases in humans. Louis Patterson develops a vaccine for rabies. Louis Patterson creates a process of sterilized known as Pasteurin. Daniel Hale Williams performing first successful heart surgery. William Cameron discovers X-rays. Pasteur began conducting experiments on animals. Anthrax, a disease common in sheep and cattle. While looking under the microscope at blood samples from the sick animals, Pasteur discovered bacteria that we come on to all the infected animals. He knew that if he could inject healthy animals and bacteria, they would get X-rays. It would prove to the bacteria cause the disease. Pasteur injected healthy rabbits and guinea pigs with the solution and died. Animals became sick and died. Proving the bacteria causes a disease. Using the information, Pasteur was able to develop a vaccine authorized. The drug aspirin is first used to relieve pain. Alexander Fleeman discovered mold contains a substance that will kill bacteria named Vatican. Fighting germs. Pasteur work made aware that bacteria or germs cause diseases and infections. Joseph Lastron, a Scottish surgeon who was a friend of Pasteur's, began to sterilize all the equipment before the operation. To get rid his assistants, he disinfected wounds of carbolic acid to kill germs. Sure enough, his patients rarely died of infections, and other surgeons began to use his methods. Howard Fernley used penicillin extract from mold juice to treat patients for the first time. Jonas Salk develops a polio vaccine. Although docs could take steps to prevent germs on the outside of the body from spreading or infections, people had the way to kill germs once they were inside the body. This important step is in fighting disease that took place then 50 years ago, and Alexander Fleming discovered a substance that would kill bacteria. Quite an accident was contained with this mold. Instead of just throwing what ruined the experiment away, Fleming studied it carefully. What he found was extraordinary. The mold destroyed the bacteria. Fleming then tested the mold in other types of bacteria and found it has the same effect on many of them. Years of testing confirmed Fleming's observations. The substance, antibiotic, Fleming was found personal modern medicine's first antibiotic. Since its discovered, penicillin has saved hundreds and thousands of lives. Many infections that once killed people are now easily treated. Swedish doctor Erik Sanning invented the first cardiac pacemaker. Smallpox is eliminated through a mass vaccine sponsored by the World Health Organization. It is only within the last 100 years most people in the United States have become to believe that Hippocrates' guesses are true. All medical research now assumes that the human body is part of nature and that diseases have explanations that just like everything else, nature. As in natural causes of disease that are discovered, scientists are able to find ways of stopping those diseases, and more diseases can be prevented or cured. There has been tremendous progress in the last hundreds of years. Keyhole surgery is named so because it lessened rates. Stanley Puncher is awarded a Nobel Prize for his discovery of prisons that cause several serious brain diseases. But there is a great deal that we don't know. Some people can get cancer or heart disease. Millions of people, however, are involved in research on these diseases and on the drugs to cure them. They're all except the Hippocrates. What there must be natural causes for these diseases. We don't know what they are. When someone gets cancer today, we are almost mystified, and helpless as people were about any disease a few hundred years ago. If you become a doctor or a medical researcher, you may be one of the heroes like Jennifer or Pastor, who has dispelled some of that fear. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Make sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button. I also want to give the third shout out to my Gram. I love hearing her great things about my stories, and she loves listening to me read. If you guys enjoyed today's video, keep watching. Bye. Love you. Peace.